This text from Blake Lively is insane. If you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. It's my love language, spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth. What?
It's a crazy text.
What are you insinuating? Like, is that a joke?
Yeah.
I was blown away reading it. I really was blown away.
I defend Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit with Blake Lively because I think she's horrible and she's made up this whole thing because she tried to steal his movie. But he is the most overly feminized man I've had to endure in recent history. Everything he says is self-flagellating over the fact that he's a man. But he's, to me, is sort of the embodiment of what happens when you totally emasculate a man. And then she continued, she took that stiletto and stuck it in his heart when he was down there self-flagellating, being so sorry for anything having to do with his testosterone. And so that's what happens to you, right?
The lawyer's name is Brian Friedman. He stopped by the Megyn Kelly show. And here's some of the things that he had to say. First, he says there used to never be a sexual claim. There never was a sexual claim until she went to that civil rights office.
Blake Lively, the queen of perfectly curated Instagram posts and red carpet grace, is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And not because of a new film or a jaw-dropping fashion moment. Oh no, this time, it's all about some shady receipts that just hit the public eye. Apparently, her lawyer wasn't careful enough, and now the internet has a front row seat to whatever she's been trying to keep under wraps.
There was actually no allegation of harassment until the lawsuit was filed.
But it just seems to me that the Team Lively side has been caught really quite flat-footed on this whole thing, and yet they're the plaintiffs. They're the ones who had all the time in the world to prepare this before they filed. So I know you've talked about this, but what is your view of that?
Yeah, that's the thing that was the strangest to me, was she claims to have, had all of this ready, even when the initial New York Times article was published, right? They claimed that they published this information because they had thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that they reviewed of evidence, and that's why they felt confident publishing this article. I didn't believe that there was, even 50 pages of information that they reviewed, but that's my own it's my own personal opinion. But it's where's the 1,000 documents that they reviewed then?
And let's just say the fallout isn't looking pretty, because when Hollywood's sweetheart suddenly finds herself at the center of a legal mess, people start paying attention. So what exactly got exposed, and why is Blake supposedly collapsing over it? Let's get into the details.
Then you run into somebody who seems like a witch who will take advantage of you and hurt you until finally even that kind of a guy rises up. Now, he didn't do it himself exactly. He hired a badass named Brian Friedman. And he has badass women like me defending him. Mm-hmm. But slowly but surely, I think the male class is learning down on the floor, squirming and apologizing for being a man is not the way.
So what exactly went down? Because let's be real, Blake Lively isn't the type to just randomly land in a scandal. She's built her entire brand on being the effortlessly charming, fashion-forward, drama-free actress. But now there are whispers, receipts, and a legal mess that even her perfectly polished PR team can't sweep under the rug.
Blake Lively has filed to get out of this lawsuit. And this gets tricky because it applies to a new law in California that was actually enacted in January of 2024. Now, on its face, it can look like that she could get out of it, but there are some details in which I don't see how that's a possibility. And it also doesn't mean Justin Baldoni can't sue her again. But Blake Lively filed to dismiss Justin Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit. The move comes 2 days after her husband, Ryan Reynolds, asked the court to do the same. In the motion to dismiss, Lively's legal team cited a California law that protects individuals from retaliatory lawsuits if they report allegations of sexual harassment or misconduct. If successful, Baldoni could be on the hook to cover Reynolds and Lively's legal fees. This lawsuit is a profound abuse of the legal process. This is what's in this filing. So this lawsuit is a profound abuse of the legal process that has no place in federal court. California law now expressly prohibits suing victims who make the decision to speak out against harassment or retaliation, whether in a lawsuit or in the press. Attorneys Mike Gottlieb and Ezra Hudson told Yahoo Entertainment in a statement.
It all started when someone, probably an exasperated intern or a very sloppy legal assistant, let some confidential documents slip into the wrong hands. And by wrong hands, we mean the kind of hands that live for Hollywood chaos. Within hours, those juicy little details were everywhere, sparking a frenzy of speculation. Blake's name was suddenly trending, but not for a new movie or a cute family moment with Ryan Reynolds. Nope, this time it was all about whatever shady business just got exposed.
This meritless and retaliatory lawsuit runs head first into 3 legal obstacles, including the litigation, fair report, and harassment privileges, the latter of which contains a mandatory fee-shifting provision that will require the likes of billionaire Steve Sarowitz, Wayfarer Studios, and others that brought frivolous defamation claims against Ms. Lively to pay damages. Gottlieb and Hudson continued. In other words, in an epic self-own, the Wayfarer party's attempt to sue Ms. Lively into oblivion has only created more liability for them, and deservedly so, given what they have done.
And here's the kicker. Her lawyer's slip-up wasn't just some tiny mistake. It was the kind of blunder that makes legal teams break out in a cold sweat. Because what was in those receipts? Alleged backroom deals, unpaid debts, something a little more interesting? Whatever it was enough to send her team into full-blown damage control mode.
Here is a text exchange between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni during the filming of It Ends With Us. Hey Blake, did you rewrite Lily's lines for today's scene? Oh yeah, nothing big though, just a few changes that I think better portray Lily's thoughts. That's cool, I don't mind, I trust you. Could you just let me know next time in advance? I want as much of a woman's perspective as possible. So do your thing, I just want to be kept in the loop. So Ryle is reacting to the right lines when we film. Gotcha. Don't worry, you're still the director. No need to snap at me. So that passive-aggressive exchange was part of a text from May 15th, 2023, and then they sent each other voice memos. More things to come with this to see if the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni lawsuits go to trial.
Of course, Hollywood loves a scandal, and the internet detectives wasted no time piecing things together. Within minutes, theories were flying. Was this about a past project gone wrong? A secret investment that wasn't so clean? Or, dare we say it, something personal? Because let's not pretend Hollywood's A-list doesn't have its fair share of hidden drama.
Lively's motion, which was obtained by Yahoo, slammed Baldoni's vengeful and rambling lawsuit. I mean, just reading this, it is like venom. It is so disgusting, especially with all the evidence that we know. And just the idea that someone can just claim harassment falsely, ruin someone's life, or falsely claim assault, ruin that person's life, and that person should just lie down and take it. There's nothing can be done about it. It's absolutely insane that this law, I understand why the law was done, but when you think about it, like, you can just, this is how people can get ahead. They can just threaten somebody and say, I will claim that you tried to sexually harass me.
Then came the reaction. And oh, was it telling. Blake, who normally has the perfect response to everything, suddenly went very quiet. No witty Instagram posts, no playful banter with Ryan Reynolds, just radio silence. And in Hollywood, that's as good as an admission that something's definitely not right. Meanwhile, her legal team was in full damage control mode. Statements were being drafted, NDAs were probably flying left and right, and somewhere in a very expensive office, a lawyer was probably having a very bad day. Because let's face it, when your own team leaks the receipts, there's no easy way to spin that.
This was a sinister PR move. Blake Lively then moved 11 days later to file a lawsuit. So now she has filed a lawsuit. And I don't think she ever wanted to do this. I think she genuinely wanted this to be a PR move, and she wanted to leak it to the New York Times. She thought the public would take her side with no questions asked. And instead the public is saying, no, we have a few questions here. And Justin Baldoni is going all the way to the wall on this. His lawyer is already giving interviews explaining just how nasty her team has played this.
Naturally, the media jumped in with both feet. Headlines screaming about Blake collapsing under pressure, insiders whispering about panic behind the scenes, and of course, the classic a source close to the actress suddenly knowing everything. But was she really collapsing, or just scrambling to get ahead of whatever mess had just been dumped in her lap? And let's not forget Hollywood's favorite game, public perception. Blake has spent years crafting the image of the perfect, scandal-free celebrity. No messy divorces, no PR nightmares, no sudden meltdowns, just a polished, smiling actress who somehow manages to stay above it all. But now, that clean image was taking a hit.
Blake Lively did not even read the book that the movie was based on.
Correct.
And we're not talking War and Peace. And then she wanted to, ixnayed all of the wardrobe choices, because when you're making a movie about a poor woman who's suffering from domestic violence, you want her to look like she has money.
Right.
That Blake said.
That's what she did.
She looks like she has money.
Yep.
And she's dressing in florals. And then she's going on this press tour, pushing her liquor line and her hair care line, because that's what women who are trying to escape with their lives are worried about.
That's what generated her negative press and led to a series of clips of her being insensitive in one way, shape, or form with other interviewers in the past. She has no one to blame but herself for that.
The press tour is part of that pay package.
Right.
You have to show up with a smile on your face and be polite to people who are not lobbing, difficult questions at you. They're softball.
Her fans, of course, were divided. Some refused to believe she had anything to hide. They're just being targeted because she's successful, they cried, conveniently ignoring that no one randomly leaks legal documents for fun. Others weren't so convinced. Where there's smoke, there's fire, they murmured as they zoomed in on every blurry screenshot circulating online. Then there were the conspiracy theorists. Oh, and did they have a field day? Maybe this was Hollywood politics at play. Maybe someone was out to get her. Maybe, just maybe, this was all a carefully orchestrated stunt. Because in an industry where any publicity is good publicity, who's to say this wasn't some weird strategy to keep her name in the headlines?
It's not her movie. She was hired to act in this movie.
Yes.
And we know now from so many texts and emails, she wanted to take over this project.
Yes.
She needed some way to recover. And the way she thought in her mind was this insane lawsuit. Okay. And maybe he did make her uncomfortable. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the thing you have to know before you do this is, how are you perceived in your industry? And the one time they worked with Ryan, he was a jerk, and the one time they worked with Blake, she was the worst, and they're all gonna come out. If you have a great reputation.
They think they're great people, you see. People that are egos and narcissistic like that, they think there's nothing wrong with them. They're the best.
They don't see it, and they aren't aware of their reputation. If you have a great reputation, everyone's gonna come out and support you. What does it say that your best friend, Taylor, has not come out to defend you?
No, she's like, girl, she's like, I'm waiting to bring out Rep TV.
But here's the thing, if it was a stunt, it wasn't going well, because Blake wasn't just dealing with online gossip, she was dealing with a legal situation. And legal messes don't just disappear because you ignore them, they tend to get worse. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, Blake's ever-supportive, always joking husband, was suspiciously quiet. Normally, he'd be the first to crack a joke about the situation, turning a scandal into a Twitter punchline, but this time, nothing. Not a single tweet, not a single sarcastic remark. And that was enough to make people wonder if things were actually as serious as they seemed.
And by worse, I mean worse for Blake Lively's entire case. So when it came time to film It Ends With Us, Jenny Slate rented an apartment in New York City. Makes sense, that's where they're filming the movie. She has a toddler. I guess for whatever reason, she didn't love this apartment, right? The problem is, she ended up dropping a $15,000 deposit. So if she wanted to move to a different one, she would have to lose that $15,000 deposit. Heartbreaking. So Jamie Heath, who's a producer on It Ends With Us, ended up offering for Wayfair to cover that $15,000. That way she didn't lose it. Something in which he referenced her being a mother made her uncomfortable. And that's ultimately what led to her filing this HR complaint with Sony. So this is where Sony got away with back in the December article when Variety published that they'd asked if any HR complaints had ever been filed against Justin Baldoni during the production of It Ends With Us. Well, they were able to say no because this specific HR complaint was not filed against Justin Baldoni. It was filed against Jamie Heath, Baldoni's producer, and it wasn't a claim of harassment. So if this is what made her so uncomfortable on the set of It Ends With Us, I don't know, I'm still waiting for the smoking gun, Blake. Like where, because the more information that comes out, and this could possibly be why Jenny Slate does not want to come out publicly with any of this, because it would probably look really dumb on her part that she filed an HR complaint because he referred to her being a mother and she was uncomfortable with that. I don't know, what do you think? Is she being dramatic? Are we not taking this seriously?
So what now? Damage control, of course. Blake's team would probably roll out some carefully worded statement, something vague but apologetic, something that dismissed the scandal without actually addressing it. Maybe she'd do a well-timed public appearance, smiling just enough to convince people she wasn't totally freaking out. But the internet has a long memory, and once the receipts are out, they don't just disappear. Blake Lively might be used to controlling the narrative, but this time, the story is writing itself. And whether she collapses or not, one thing's for sure, Hollywood won't be forgetting this anytime soon.